Hey everyone, so in the past, I've made some meme videos on my channel about how Percy Jackson should theoretically be able to bloodbend because blood is a large percent water, like 80%. And people, whenever they see those videos, they talk about how, it's not canon to the Percy Jackson books. He never does that. He can't bloodbend. But I think he should be able to. I think in the canon of Percy Jackson, he should be able to because he's that powerful. And I always wanted to know what would happen if Percy Jackson bloodbended. What would happen if he found out he could literally control blood? But there's no stories about it. So, guys, I decided to write it. And yeah, I guess you could call it fan fiction. You can call it what you want. I'm not writing this for profit. Obviously, I'm not publishing this. It's just for me to share with you guys. And guys, it's actually, in my mind, this should be canon. Like, I reference things in the past that have happened to Percy and Annabeth. Like, their references to the actual books. Like, this is not fan fiction in the sense that it's an alternate universe. This is written as if it's supposed to be in the regular Percy Jackson universe. And it basically explores what happens when Percy Jackson first finds out he can actually control blood. And it actually goes into some pretty dark stuff because, people talk about Dark Percy all the time. This explores Dark Percy a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read it for you guys. I've also linked the story in the description. It's on a Google Doc. You can check it out if you want to read it for yourself. But guys, please let me know in the comment section what you think about it after either listening to me read it or reading it yourself. Let me know what you think about it because honestly, I really like it, but I'm biased because I wrote it. So please let me know what you think about it. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but it's about 2,500 words long. So it doesn't take too long. And yeah, that's basically it. Let's get started with the story. Without any further ado, I present Percy Jackson, Bender of Blood. You can just put that box right over there. I trudged over and set down the heavy cardboard box where my girlfriend Annabeth had indicated, then looked her up and down. I can't help but notice how you haven't carried anything in today. Annabeth gestured around the box-infested dorm room. Someone has to supervise, seaweed brain. This is intense stuff. Very easy to mess up if no one is coordinating it. I sighed. It was a good thing I loved Annabeth and would do anything for her, but the only problem was she knew it and knew exactly how to exploit it to the max. That was how I'd gotten stuck carrying boxes all morning while she directed me. But it was okay, because I was definitely planning to enlist her to move boxes into my dorm room after we finished with hers, and I wouldn't take no for an answer. It was the start of our third year at New Rome University. Well, actually, school started in a few weeks, but we were moving in a bit early so we'd have some time to enjoy the campus before all the crazy college demigods showed up for the fall semester. There were some professors around getting ready for the year, but they hardly mattered. For all intents and purposes, it'd be just Annabeth and me for a little while, which was how I liked it. Also, I was really looking forward to taking a Roman bath without tons of other frat bros starting splash fights with me just because I'm a son of Poseidon. Don't get me wrong, splash fights are cool, just not in a bath. Come on. People should know better than to start a splash fight with someone who can literally control the splashes. Anyway, I'd spent the last 2 school years hanging by a thread, barely surviving my extremely hard classes, and Annabeth had, of course, been acing all of hers. But she hadn't even offered a single time to do any of my homework. Can you believe the nerve? She was literally a daughter of Athena. She ate homework for breakfast. The least she could have done was occasionally assist me with mine, but I could only dream. She kept saying that me doing my own homework was good for my mental health, but that just felt like a load of garbage to me. For what it was worth, though, I was very much looking forward to another year of suffering through school, since it meant I got to be with Annabeth most of the time. Everything was better when she was around. I was about to head out the dorm room to get another box when she put a hand on my shoulder. "Percy, what do you know about blood?" I stared at her blankly. I had no idea how to respond. What do I know about blood? Geez, let's see. It's red, it's liquidy, That's not what I meant, Annabeth said, sweeping her blonde hair over her right shoulder. Then she paused. Wait, actually that is kind of what I meant. Okay, wise girl. I honestly have no idea what's going on right now. Why are we talking about blood all of a sudden? Annabeth moved over toward the far corner of the room and opened one of the boxes. She pulled a bright red book right out from the top as if she'd purposely left it there and showed me the cover. I'm dyslexic, so it took me about 10 seconds to sound it out, but finally I was able to understand the title. 100 Facts You Didn't Know About Blood. That's all it said. No author was even listed. It was easily the weirdest book I'd ever seen, and that's saying something, because all books look weird to me. I picked this up a few days ago from a used bookstore back home, Annabeth said, flipping nonchalantly through the pages. I'm always trying to learn new things. I half smiled and mumbled, "You can say that again." What was that? Nothing. Annabeth shook her head and sat down on the floor with the book in her lap. We'd already been moving boxes in for about an hour, so if she was taking a break from her supervising, I was totally fine with taking a break from my manual labor. I plopped down next to her and rested my head on my hands. Annabeth took a breath. I've heard this before, but never really thought about it too much. One of the facts in this book is that blood is about 80% water. It actually makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Basically, all liquids are mostly water. I raised my head. Whenever Annabeth went into trivia mode, I usually tended to not pay much attention. But if she was talking about water, I figured this was important. As a son of Poseidon, basically my whole life was about water. It was one of the only things I fully understood. And yes, I realize how pathetic that sounds. And you're telling me this now because I trailed off hoping she'd finish my sentence? Because I just read it last night, Annabeth said with a smirk coming to her face. Man, sometimes you really do have kelp in your head. Hey, I said, pointing a finger at her. Thanks for the compliment. She laughed and bumped my shoulder. There's a point to all this. Do you think, with blood having such a high concentration of water, that you could— No, I interrupted, then quickly stood up and walked a few paces away. I probably should have realized this was where Annabeth was trying to go. I turned back to her. You want to see if I can control blood? Why would you even ask me that? Remember what happened the last time I controlled something that was mostly water? Annabeth's stormy gray eyes looked down at the floor. I knew she didn't like remembering our unintended trip to Tartarus several years back. Neither did I. It had been the worst time of both of our lives. The only way we'd gotten through was by relying on each other. I'm sorry, Percy, Annabeth said, still looking down. I know that when you controlled the poison to save us from Aeschylus, it almost broke you. You almost lost yourself. But this isn't even close to the same. We're not in that hellish place anymore. Nothing bad is going to happen if you just try. I grimaced. Why was she pushing so hard for me to do this? I mean, I'll admit it was an interesting idea, and one I'd never thought of before, but was it even worth trying? If I was able to control blood, the possibilities for that power were endless, but also frightening. Did I really want to even go there? In Tartarus, you told me that some things aren't meant to be controlled, I reminded Annabeth. Doesn't blood fall into that category? She stood up and took my right hand, lacing her fingers through mine. I suppose it could, but like I said, this is way different. You aren't going to lose yourself if you just do a little experiment. I honestly don't see the harm in it. Plus, I'm actually really interested to learn if it's even possible. For science. I raised an eyebrow as I looked at her. For science? Since when do you like science? I thought architecture was your thing. Annabeth grinned sheepishly. Come on, seaweed brain. I'm a child of the goddess of wisdom. You should know that I like all subjects. I took a deep breath. She was probably right. If we just did a little test, no harm could come of it. All right, I said, still a bit hesitant. So, how should we do this? Annabeth unlinked her hand from mine and ambled to the other side of the room, then opened a box and withdrew an ivory white sword. It was the sword she'd gotten from the giant Damazin during our voyage through Tartarus, and was made from pure Maeonian draken bone. Before I realized what she was doing, she slid her index finger along the sword's rim, then held out her hand. Several drops of blood splattered to the wooden floor. She then pulled an old rag out of the box and wrapped her finger in it, tying a quick knot to hold it in place. There you go, Annabeth said, pointing to the drops of blood. This is as safe as we can get. Let's just see what happens. I was still a bit stunned that Annabeth would cut her finger just for science, but I'd also seen her do crazier things in the past. In fact, this was actually near the bottom of her crazy list. I moved closer to her until I was standing right above the blood splatters next to Annabeth. She leaned over and kissed me on the cheek, then said, Everything is going to be okay. I gave her a hopeful look, then moved my eyes to the blood on the floor. I reached my hand out toward it, trying to sense what was there. I instantly felt a tug in my gut. I could tell that the blood was composed of exactly 79.83754% water. I could literally feel the water molecules moving around inside the blood. For some reason, I thought this would be a lot harder, but I should have known better. Once I opened my mind to the water, it almost felt like it was calling to me, like it had been waiting a long time for me to recognize it. I squeezed my hand into a fist. Instantly, the blood drops moved together and congealed. I slowly lifted my fist toward the ceiling, and the blood followed suit, levitating off the floor. Next to me, Annabeth gasped and covered her mouth with a hand. Percy, this is so cool! I'd forgotten Annabeth was even there. I looked over at her. Those dazzling gray eyes, that gorgeous smile, that look of wonder all over her face. But at that exact moment, that's not what I actually saw. All I noticed were the thousands and thousands of tiny blood vessels running throughout her facial skin. I almost felt like I could hear the blood rushing up and down them, similar to rapids in a river. Then I sensed the blood flowing through her whole body. The feeling was overwhelming. I wanted to control it. I needed to control it. Why should I be limiting my focus to a few lousy specks of blood from the floor when I could control the 11.31578 pints of blood circling throughout my girlfriend? But was that even enough? I needed more. I expanded my senses outward in all directions, and it didn't take long for me to be rewarded. My Latin professor was in her faculty office, typing at her computer. My marine biology professor was in his classroom, writing some things on the whiteboard. Not just them, though, but 23 other professors were already on the NRU campus for the new school year, and I knew what every single one of them was doing. I could feel the blood in their bodies, the way it moved, the way it bent. I knew that if I wanted to, I could bend all of their blood to my will, and it would hardly take a thought. Percy! I heard from a distance. Percy, I'm sorry. This wasn't supposed to happen. Please come back. It was Annabeth. My focus shifted back to her dorm room where I was still standing, still levitating the tiny glob of blood a foot off the ground. Annabeth was shaking my shoulders violently. "Stop!" she yelled, a look of pure anguish on her face. "You can hold it back!" What a nuisance. I could easily explode every single one of the blood vessels in her body right now. Why shouldn't I? She had the nerve to yell at me. Absolutely disrespectful. Hadn't Annabeth told me just a few moments ago that there would be no harm in controlling blood? Why shouldn't I go for it then? She wanted an experiment, and she would get one. Her body would be the experiment. I was just about to command every blood molecule in Annabeth's body to expand indefinitely when she said 5 words that I couldn't ignore, her hands still on my shoulders, tears streaming from her eyes. "Please, Percy, I love you." With a silent crack, the spell broke. The congealed blood turned back to liquid and sloshed to the floor. I followed its example, collapsing to the floor and burying my head in my arms. Annabeth wrapped me in a tight hug, muttering, I'm so sorry, over and over again. I realized I was crying too. What had just happened? Had I really been about to kill Annabeth, the love of my life? "You were right," Annabeth said, her voice shaking. "I should have listened to my own words. Some things aren't meant to be controlled." I wiped the tears off my cheeks, then hugged Annabeth back. She buried her face in my shoulder. "You saved me again," I whispered. "Thank you." Annabeth's head shook back and forth. "This would have never happened if I hadn't talked you into it." "It's okay," I said. "I forgive you." Annabeth continued weeping in my arms, but my mind went elsewhere. Okay, so my first try at controlling blood hadn't gone well. Very large understatement there. Something about the nature of it had filled me with a darkness I'd never felt before, not even while controlling poison in the pit of Tartarus. I had felt like I held people's lives in the palm of my hand. But what if I could learn to suppress the darkness? What if I could hone this ability and use it against actual enemies, like monsters? Did monsters even have blood? If so, and if I could command it, then defeating them would be as simple as a thought. I smiled at that prospect. Annabeth took her face out of my shirt, sniffled, and looked deep into my eyes. "I was wrong. Please never do that again." I rubbed her back softly, then said, "Don't worry, I won't." But in the back of my mind, I knew I was telling a lie. I didn't know how or when, but I would try controlling blood again. There was just too much potential there. I would make sure to be extra careful next time. I gave Annabeth one last squeeze, then stood, offering a hand to help her up. She took it, and we wordlessly walked outside to grab some more boxes. That's the entire story, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you want to read it for yourselves, like I said, with actual text, you can click the link in the description of this video and you can read it. But if you listen to the whole video, thanks for sticking around. And please, guys, let me know in the comment section what you thought. Because like I said, I think it's pretty good, but I need your guys' thoughts on it. Because ultimately, you guys are insane Percy Jackson fans. So if it's good, you'll tell me. If it's bad, you'll tell me. Let me know in the comment section what you thought about it. Also, really quickly, I just want to make it clear, I do not claim these characters. These characters are not mine. Annabeth and Percy are not mine. This is purely a work of fan fiction, but it still fits into the universe canonically. But yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you for watching.